Okay, well, good morning. This will be our first installment of doing the lessons for this year. Normally, I advise people to do the lessons whenever they decide to. They don't necessarily have to start on January 1st. But for the purpose of this particular exercise and the way we're doing it, we're going to do that because people tend to start the lessons on January 1st. And doing it together may give people the incentive to stay on when they would maybe perhaps had not carried through. So we can help each other out this way, possibly. Now, I'm not going to be doing the lessons for you. I'm taking a look at the lessons and seeing what I'm given to speak about on the lessons. As I said when I did the introduction, I think it's important, especially at the beginning, that we take a look at the introduction and remember exactly why we're doing this, because it has some helpful hints as to how we go about completing our assignment of getting these lessons done. So again, I'm gonna just take a look for a second at the introduction and look at some of the main points and remind myself and everyone else exactly why we're doing these, how we're doing these, and what the purpose is. So when we do read the introduction, we see that the first series of lessons, the first part of the workbook, is designed to help us undo our perception, undo the way we see now, which requires retraining our minds from the way we're seeing and the way we're thinking, and eventually having that old way replaced with a new way. So I think it's important that we remember that the purpose of the workbook is to train your mind in a systematic way to a different perception of everyone and everything in the world. The exercises are planned to help you generalize the lessons so that you will understand that each of them is equally applicable to everyone and everything. Notice it didn't say so that you understand the lessons. It said so that you understand they're equally applicable in all situations to everyone and everything. That's the important part. The application will allow us to understand the truth of the principle and give us an insight as to what the course is actually saying. Remember, there's only a few rules that we need to follow. The exercises are to be practiced with great specificity, and we'll see that when we get into the first one. And they'll help us generalize the idea to every situation. The overall aim of the exercise is to increase our ability to extend the ideas you'll be practicing to include everything and everyone. Some of the lessons are going to be hard to believe. Some of the ideas we will never have seen before. There's ideas about time and space. They may be hard to believe. Remember, it's not important whether you believe them, how you feel about them. It's only important that you do them and apply them as you're asked to. That's the assignment. You need not believe the ideas, you need not accept them, you may not even welcome them. But do not allow yourself to make exceptions in applying the ideas, and whatever your reactions may be, include them in. That's all that's being asked of you. So, if we turn to the first lesson, we see it says, "Nothing I see in this room, or on the street, or through the window, or on the road you live, or in the place you're working, or in the place you're celebrating New Year's. Nothing you see in that room or place means anything. The table doesn't mean anything. The chair doesn't mean anything. The hand doesn't mean anything. Your foot doesn't mean anything. The pen doesn't mean anything." And then you look a little bit further away to a broader area, and your mind begins to light on different things in that particular area. The door doesn't mean anything. The body that you see through the door or through your window, that doesn't mean anything. The sign doesn't mean anything. Those are the things you're just supposed to apply it to. In the course of your day, as it says in the introduction, you're in different situations. You may be at work and you spend 5, 6, 7, 8 hours at work. You're asked to apply it at work. You may be on a subway going to work for 10, 15 minutes a day. Apply it once or twice there. Make no exceptions. Apply it as it comes to you and just be about your day other than that. Okay? Now, when we get to the bottom of the lesson, after we've looked around and said, nothing I see means anything, the door, the fireplace doesn't mean anything, this computer doesn't mean anything, the coffee, the tea that I'm drinking, none of this really means anything. It says, notice that these statements are not arranged in any order, and make no allowance for differences in the kinds of things to which they are applied. That is the purpose of the exercise. That nothing's really arranged in any order. Our mind implies the order. We give it the order. It doesn't really mean anything of itself. The statement is merely applied to anything you see. As you practice applying the idea for the day, use it totally indiscriminately. Do not attempt to apply it to everything you see, for these exercises shouldn't become ritualistic. One of the things, to me, about the lessons is that you really do need to do them only once. You take a year, you take the time out, and that becomes your, let's say, your occupation. For a year, your occupation is to follow the lesson plan as it's laid out. Now, if it takes you a year, so be it. If it takes you a year and a half, so be it. But the idea is to go through these lessons one at a time as they're given, and it'll allow you to help, especially the first part, undo the way you're thinking and seeing, undo the way you're perceiving, and make a space in your mind for a new way of thinking, a new way of perceiving. Do not attempt to apply it to everything you see, for these exercises should not become ritualistic. In that sense, you don't have to set a certain time of day. It's helpful to do it when you wake up in the morning. It's helpful to do it in the evening. But don't make plans as to how you're going to do it, how you're going to get it done. Just allow yourself to remember that it's time to do the lesson and do it. Only be sure that nothing you see is specifically excluded. One thing is like another as far as the application of the idea is concerned. You got that? Because you're going to look at some things and you're going to, in your mind and heart, think that you have already given meaning, and that meaning is sacrosanct, and saying the words, my child does not mean anything, sounds like it's going against some principle of parenthood that you couldn't live with if you said to yourself, your child doesn't mean anything. Don't worry about that. Just apply it and notice the feelings. So when I was thinking about these lessons and doing them, one of the things that came to me to say right at the outset, especially about this first lesson, is this. The ego, the thinking of the ego, is what is being undone. And the ego is a getting mechanism. The ego is a getting device. We're trying to change the way we think from being in a condition of forgetting, which is egoic, to forgiving, which is our inheritance as divine, as holy, perfect children of God. That's the purpose of these lessons. So many people, upon doing a lesson such as this one, especially the first day, they worry about, well, did I get it? What did I get? What am I supposed to get? It is that particular type of thinking that these lessons are designed to undo. There's nothing to get here. We're not doing these lessons in an attempt to exchange something for something else right now. We're not doing them to get the idea. We're not doing them to get anything. We're doing them as part of a systematic way of training our minds and undoing the egoic thinking that fosters the ideas, the feelings, the sensations that if we do these, we will get something. We're not trying to be good children, get them right, and then get benefit. That's not what this is about. It's a systematic training to undo the old thinking, which the ego fosters, that we are here to get because we are in need. And for some reason, it's important that I advise you guys of that and remember for myself. The ego is a getting mechanism. It will look upon a lesson like this after you do it and begin to evaluate your progress, begin to evaluate what's going on, why you're doing these lessons, based on its inherent need to get. That's exactly the thinking that the first part of the workbook is designed to help us undo. It's designed to help us undo the egoic idea that there is something to get. Okay? So remember that in the course of the day. And don't let the egoic thoughts that pop into your mind, the judgmental thoughts, the questioning thoughts, don't let them allow you to decide the efficacy of these lessons. That is not the purpose. Obviously, it's a course in learning to give up judgment because all of our judgment is false. It's a course in helping us see that all of our thinking, when it is founded on fundamental egoic principles, has led us to the wrong conclusion and literally has given us nothing. Okay, so remember, take today's lesson out into the world with your eyes open as they light upon things in certain situations you find yourself in, and just remind yourself, this New Year's Day parade means nothing. It does not mean anything. That is hard to believe when you're standing there watching the parade. And perhaps it's disheartening to some of you. Notice the reaction. Some of you may already be experiencing the fact that things don't mean to you what they mean to other people. And perhaps they contain no meaning at all. Notice the reactions, notice the feeling, and go on and just look at the next thing you're given to see and say, nothing I see means anything. That's all we're asked to do. It's as if we've been given a job. And in a certain way, the success that you have in merely doing the lesson is the fulfillment of your function in that new capacity, in that new job that you've taken on for the year. Do the lesson as it's asked to be done. Be satisfied that you accomplished what you set out to do in merely doing the lesson. Notice what comes from it, and yet don't accept the judgments, the criticisms, and the questioning of the ego as having anything to do with whether you've accomplished your mission in doing the lesson correctly for yourself. Okay? And that's it. That's it for today. So, Happy New Year. Be free in your application of these lessons. And just go about the business of the day that you're given to go about. And be happy. Thanks for listening.